She promised to love him for better or for worse. And now she's wondering, was the exchange worth it? Because the situation that she's in is not working. She is now flirting with taking her phone off the hook, because every time the phone rings, her spirit sits at a standstill. Fear is deposited in her soul like an oversized city landfill. She tries to will her will to pick up the phone, but this is more than a collection of a past due bill. More than a reminder of an unpaid loan. This here could potentially be the call to let her know that her husband is not coming home. Because you see, 4 years ago, her husband decided to be one of Uncle Sam's concubines. Not knowing that during the process of time, she would realize that all the promises of seeing the world would be lies. He was fooled by the quick wits and the slick lips of the well-dressed decorative pimp with the devilish grin, who promised him that if he decided to join his clique, he would be the quick of the quick and the strong of the strong. Knowing that all the would-be hero wanted to do was to belong, and while his wife and kids sat on the outside, he was forced to sign away his freedom on the inside. This was definitely the calm before the storm, because the easiest thing for a man to do is to go with the flow, and the hardest thing for a wife to do is to stay positive every time the phone rings. Especially when just last week, she received a letter from the desert covered in smeared ink. Couldn't get the message in the envelope before the tears saturated the lines. Can't make out the words. Hard to read. Manuscripted by a man who was forced to script the screenplay of the last 3 years of reality. Actors killed off, never to return like the soap operas do. This movie is real. And the writer is trying to stay strong, but it's hard to stay strong when you're forced to listen to your best friend's tears as they form craters in the desert sand the size of the palm of God's hand. And the writer understands, because truthfully, sometimes he feels the same way. What's a writer to say? Meanwhile, across the water, there's a mother worried about her son. Flipping through old photo albums, hoping that the last picture that she took wouldn't be the last one. She gets frustrated, because in her mind, he could have sold some dope and went to prison. At least then, she would be able to see him twice a month instead of once a year. And she wants to make it crystal clear that she understands he had to go against the grain to become a man, but he doesn't understand what it does to her every time she hears her phone ring. And then across time, there's a wife leaning in the doorway, watching the babies play as the day fades away, trying to hold back the tears that well in her soul. It gets hard. She was willing to play the hand that she was dealt, but now she wants to trade in her cards. Going on is unavoidable, and giving up is not an option. What's a wife to do? So she gathers the kids together at bedtime, and she tells them that when your dad gets home, he's going to place you on his knee. He's going to tell you about his journey from the mean city streets to the desert sands of a strange land, and then back to a home where his sleep can be sweet. The babies weep, she weeps, the baby sleeps, but she can't sleep. So she grabs her substitute husband called her pillow. She places it between her knees. She gets her favorite CD and her favorite song. She begins to sing. But before she can get to the second line of the first verse, she hears her telephone ring. Every time the phone rings,